Sunday morning here on the Jersey Shore. Meanwhile, to my right, a lady is celebrating Sunday afternoon. Yes, we get technology. We bring somebody in from the UK. You gotta love it. I'm Rob Akampora. This is the A Game, and the lady to my right, back in the late 80s and early 90s, string of great hits that were, let's see, 8 top 30 hits in the UK, a monster hit in the United States around 1987. Still doing music, happy to say that. And she's got a lot of other interests as well. We'll get into it with the voice of T-Pau, Carol Decker. Hello, and thanks for coming on.
Hey, Rob. Oh, it's my pleasure. Hi, everybody. Stay safe.
And I got to thank you for taking the time, because I know your son, by the way, it's his birthday. I know he's not watching, but Dylan, when you get to watch this, happy, what is it, 19th birthday for him today?
He's 19 today, yeah. Smelly and spotty and lovely, yeah.
No, I'm glad it worked out, because I understood when we were kind of corresponding, like, oh, look, you've just celebrated a birthday. Totally understand. We'll find another time. So when it kind of fell into my lap, I was like, oh, okay, we'll do it. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, the other dates you offered me, thank the Lord, I'm getting busy again, so I couldn't do them. So I've got gigs coming up. I've got festivals, which is great.
Yeah, we're going to
starting to come back online. Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm happy about. There's two major ones we're going to talk about, and I'm intrigued by both of them, because one has a really hell of a headliner, and the other one involves an orchestra. So we'll get into all that. But I apologize, because I'm sure you've been asked this question over the last 30 some odd years. The name T-Pau. Anybody who's a Star Trek fan knows the history of the term T-Pau. So was there somebody in the band that was a Star Trek fan?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so it's 1986, and we got our record deal, and we'd been out to Lake Geneva, which is just outside of Chicago, a few hours outside of Chicago, Wisconsin, and we'd done our album, and it was all in the can. We did not have a name for the band, because my ex-partner and I were signed to the label. We wrote all the songs, we employed the band, so but we were quite democratic, and we would sit in the pub in London and go, how about the skid mark underpants? No, that's terrible. That's terrible. Okay, your mom's vagina. No, that's terrible. No. And the record company is saying, the album's coming out soon. You have to have a name. So I was back home in our flat or apartment, as you say that. And I literally was pottering about, and I was doing some ironing, and the TV was just burbling in the corner. I wasn't really paying attention. And it was an episode of the original TV series Star Trek with, Will Shatner and
Nimoy and the whole crew, absolutely.
Yeah. And all I could hear is T-Pau, bang, bang, shoot, T-Pau, whatever. I thought, that's a cool word, and it's onomatopoeic, which means snappy, Yeah. And I really liked it, and I put it to the band, and it's the one they hated the least, and we needed to win.
It won by default, in other words.
Yeah. But a little pop quiz trivia for you. If you bought the album in the States, if you bought Bridge of Spies back then on vinyl, there is no name of Bridge of Spies on the front cover. So back here it was T-Pau, Bridge of Spies, and in the States it was just T-Pau. They forgot to put Bridge of Spies on the bottom of the record.
Since you brought that up, Ming, give me photo number 4, since I got a photo of the this. Yeah, that would have been the UK release. Yeah.
And then the American version doesn't have Bridge of Spies on, so there you go. And it was like you had one job.
One job.
On the record. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
No, it's funny to get that story, because again, the Trekkies know the story. The Vulcan Priestess, that episode that you happened to catch.
Hammock Time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been educated by the Trekkies, but what you got to realize is back then, and no offense to Trekkies, and with cancel culture, please don't cancel me. You were all a bit fucking weird. Trekkies were just really weird, right? And this is way before Comic-Con, and it all became cool and trendy, and the big movie stars from the big sci-fi, you were just intense, in strange costumes, trying to get signatures from faded actors and stuff like that. And it was all about, so in America, I started kind of getting stalked for it. And I started to regret calling the band T-Pau, because I was getting all these weird letters off these strange people. And a couple of times I did press junkets, and some in New York, this one journalist, he turned up and everyone had their slot. I just sat, and they get farmed in and farmed out. And he opened his briefcase, he took out his little recording unit and his notepad, and then he took out 2 plastic pointy ears and put them on. closed his briefcase, put his briefcase on the floor, and then started to interview me and didn't reference them at all. It wasn't like, hey, whoa, Volker, whoa. Just interviewed me in these pointy ears. And then at the end of the interview said, thank you very much for the interview, Miss Decker. Took his ears off, put them back in his briefcase and left. So it was odd,
Well, it's interesting to get your take on it, because I can tell you, as somebody who's gone through the Comic-Con universe, it had become huge before the pandemic, and it continued to grow. And I look at it and I go, I think you may have missed a marketing opportunity, Carol, because if you came back to the States, that's where you sit there and go, yeah, why not make an appearance at a con, do a couple shows, sign some autographs, make a little cash.
Now I would, but it was different then. You took what you did very seriously. I remember back then, if you did some acting and some singing, people were like, well, what are you? You're an actor, you singer, what are you? You had to kind of stake your pole in the ground and stick to it. Otherwise you were considered sort of too flippant, so I didn't want. But now, of course, the world's completely changed, and I'll do anything for money, anything.
I'll defend what you said in the last point, because if you go back to around 1986, 1987, the actors who suddenly were singing were like, what? You're right. You had to be one or the other. 35 years later, if you can multitask, you're considered a great talent, where you're right. The way things were, you do get pigeonholed. So it's that you have to be this or you have to be that. Nowadays, if you can do everything,
exactly. Well, you remember the kind of like actor/model, but now you can be an actor/model, and you'll be
absolutely.
Cartier watches and all the perfume ads and all the rest of it, and making loads of money. And but things were different then, and so I was kind of a bit fearful in America that we would be perceived as this joke band, because all these mad Star Trek people were chasing me around the country. But now I'd be so grateful if they chased me around the country.
See, it's interesting how it all comes around.
Please chase me.
There's an interesting point, because the dual edge of American success. I mean, Heart and Soul becomes this monster hit in the States. And if I remember correctly, it was actually a hit in the States before it was even a hit in your country, the UK.
Oh, well, so it got released in the UK, and little backstory. So RMD, we were signed to a sub-label of Virgin in the UK and on Virgin generally in the rest of the world, including America. So back home in the UK, our MD of Siren hated the mixes. We just sat there with him and he hated it. And Roy Thomas Baker, who produced our album, and his amazing engineer, Jerry Napier, they do Bohemian Rhapsody and Motley Crue. And look at Roy Thomas Baker. Back then, he was just a genius, Grammy Award winning, everything. And he had this thing where he put loads of compression on the mixes. So it sounded great on the radio, particularly in the States, sounded amazing. But when I got my first vinyl pressing and played it on my stereo at home, I was like fiddling with the treble and the bass, and I just couldn't get it. This doesn't sound right.
Interesting.
And RMD felt the same. He said, this is terrible, but when you hear it on the radio, it sounds amazing.
Yes.
And I think they've since gone on to rectify that with the CDs and downloads subsequently.
Right.
So he goes mad. We release Heart and Soul. It pops into the top 100 and straight back out again in the UK.
Right.
So we think it's over before it's begun. We think we're going to get dropped straight away because, they're ruthless. Record companies are ruthless. They dump you if your stuff doesn't work. Thank the Lord, two things happened. One was America took to the track.
Yes.
Thank you. And a really cool jeans company over here called Pepe Jeans.
Yes.
Used the song for their cinema commercial ad campaign. So that gave us a little bit of kudos. Mm-hmm. It gets re-released in the UK and it goes straight top 5. It goes to number 4. Also went to number 4 on the Billboard chart, mm-hmm. and stayed on the American chart for months. Yeah, used to go down a bit and back up and down a bit and back up. It was great. It was the gift that kept on giving. And wherever it got released, it pretty much went top 5 around the rest of the world, the other territories, So we got a reprieve, but we had this terrible hiccup at the beginning.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, too, is we were talking about before about the difference between then and now. 35 years ago, popping up in a commercial was not exactly considered the mainstream. Nowadays, every artist, if you can get on a commercial, make some extra money. Like I said, I hear bands like from England, like James being on a car commercial with Born of Frustration. And you see that's become more of the trend.
Yeah, well, I remember years ago. It's not an apocryphal tale. It happened. The police kicked up a fuss because their label had submitted "Don't Stand So Close to Me" for a deodorant advert, and they went mental. But you're supposed to ask permission anyway. My publishers of my back catalogue always have to get my approval for anything. But now they probably wouldn't be so fussy. And I got approached for a crockery company. Here in the UK, we have a place called Stoke-on-Trent. It's very famous for its crockery and pottery and stuff. And of course, our biggest hit at home is china in your hand. You know, can we use china in your hand to sell plates and cups? And I'm like, how dare you? That's my art. You know, and now I'd be like, yes, how much? That's very fine. You know, so we all grow up a bit, don't we? We all grow up a bit less precious. Yeah.
I think you hit it right on the head. Yeah, there is a little bit of growth where you kind of look back. If you could go back to that person 35 years ago and kind of go, I want to slap you a little bit just because, because you don't know any better, for lack of better term.
And also, it's a commercial business. You've got to wrap your head around that. Anybody, any artist out there or any fan out there who think that that's naff and it should be truly artistic, I respect that. I absolutely respect that.
Right.
But I'm not Bob Dylan. You know what I mean? I ain't. And I know it. I really do. You know, I'm not Joni Mitchell. I write really great pop songs and they're commercial, and I should have just exploited them more, I think. Yeah.
Carol Decker, the voice of T-Pau, is here on the A Game. You brought up a China in Your Hands. This is an interesting story because the song is #1 in 7 countries. It's probably globally a bigger song than Heart and Soul, yet in the United States, the song did nothing. And when I think about the song, and forgive me for anybody who's listening overseas, because this is my comparable. If you take that song and say, part Kate Bush, part Enya, beautiful pop song. It comes together. It
Enya
really
rips it off. God almighty. She was after, go on. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I just don't understand it. And it happens to a lot of artists where all of a sudden, here's this global sensation, yet you can't even get arrested with the song in the United States. I mean, when you look back on that, that had to be a little frustrating.
It was devastating. And also, you might know more than I do because you've probably done some research, and I don't research myself.
Right.
I didn't think it got released. Did it even get released?
I don't think it ever got released.
No, because I think Bridge of Spies was the next single, and I don't think that was very well received. So here's what happened then and what we were told then, and this is how American radio was formatted then.
Right.
Heart and Soul was a kind of white girl's rap song, right? Similar but different to Rapture by Blondie, you know, like
that's a good comparable, yes.
Cool and groovy and a bit of rap going on. And I don't get the credit for rap, you know. I just don't get the credit I deserve for bringing rap on, I think. So anyway, but what we got from the American radio stations was, so what are you? Are you a rap band or are you a ballad band? And they didn't know where to put us. Everything had to be similar. And we are the most eclectic writers. Ronnie and I are the most eclectic writers. You know, we'll go high drama, high ballad, we'll go rap, we'll go all sorts of different ways. We'll go pop, we'll put sequences in, we'll just go whichever way we feel like it. And back then in the States, it was a problem. It wasn't a problem at home. We had many hits back home because they liked all the different things we came out with. So.
During the 5 years of your peak, 8 top 30 hits in the UK. I mean, that's amazing. And obviously, Bridge of Spies winds up selling over 3 million worldwide, most of that in the UK. So you were really embraced as UK superstars at that point.
Eventually, yeah, and kind of Germany, we did quite well. We always sold records where it was cold and the food was awful. That's nice. I was really jealous of my friends who were going to France and Italy and Spain. It was great weather, great food. I was always like in Scandinavia, freezing my nuts off with an open herring sandwich or something on tour there. You know, so.
It sounds not appetizing whatsoever.
Yeah, it's probably really healthy and. Stuff,
we don't know. When the next album came out, and this is interesting to me, is it true that there was 2 versions of the album Rage? There's one that got released in the UK and one that actually got released here in North America, and they're kind of different. What was going on with that?
Okay, so the Americans, we had a guy heading up A&R. His name was Jeff Aroff, and he was very famous for being very, very, very hands-on.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. We did a great video of Heart and Soul. He saw it and decided he wanted to change the beginning because he had to put his stamp on things, and he didn't really make that much difference. If you can see both videos,
Yeah.
didn't massively improve it, but it was extra money which went on my bill, because you have
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
No, you have to pay it all back. So they heard the mix for the second album. By this time, they were Virgin America wanted to grab us because we'd had this huge hit with Heart and Soul.
Sure.
And so they just wanted to fiddle with everything. They just wanted everything changed just a little bit. That's all it was. And I listened to a couple of the mixes the other day of a track called Island, which we put in the set. And can't see the point in the second mix at all. So we practically mixed the album twice. And again, we pay for that because it goes on your recoupment bill.
That's what a lot of people don't realize, that
And
it's if you do that.
it didn't make any difference. It didn't really impact in America. I did okay in Canada. We went over into Canada a couple of times on the back of Rage, but you can't really hear a difference in the two versions at all. It's pointless expense. And I should have fought my corner more, but I was young and I always did think when I was young, well, this guy's really high up in the business. He must know what he's talking about, so I'll do it, And I was keen to succeed, keen to keep it going. So I was like, yeah, okay, if you think that's the right thing to do, that's fine. But now I know differently, really.
Does that motivate you in a sense that you have your own imprint now? So, I mean, you probably have taken all the things you've learned from the past and kind of say, no, I'd rather have the hands-on control of my career at this stage of my life and do it my way as much as possible.
Musically, yes. And if folks want to go, like you said, obviously I haven't had the big hits that I had, but I've continued to work and we've put records out. So if you went onto Spotify and check out Be Wonderful, Guess Who's Sorry Now, and Run, they're great songs. They're brilliantly produced. We've done it all ourselves. So we were always capable of doing that. And we learned a lot from Roy. Thank you, Roy. So, we're able to move on and do that. What I miss is the record company budget for promotion, because that's where you need to spend the money. I can make a record tomorrow. I know Ronnie has a studio. My keyboard player has a great studio. My band are amazing. They're all very reasonable with their rates. We cut deals. I can make a record tomorrow.
Right.
Getting you guys to hear about it is where you need to spend the money. It's the advertising campaigns, and that's the thing that I can't afford. So I use social media as best I can, but I'm not brilliant at it. I'm not an influencer, and that is so exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
They must spend 27 hours a day on the camera. I just, who's got the time? I mean, there's rosé to drink.
You know what? And it's funny. I brought some red wine for the occasion. I'll be pulling that out.
Yeah. Well, I'm at home and it's a Sunday afternoon, so I'll have a little drink. So that's where I miss the record company bankrolling. I really do. You're on the big billboard. You're on the TV ad campaign. People know you're out there. It's quite hard work doing it on your own. But some of it's satisfying.
And like you said, you got to do Spotify. As a matter of fact, her latest song, she mentioned Guess Who's Sorry Now. You can find the video on YouTube. And it's a lyric video. It's a well-done song. And I get the feeling the way you're talking, it's like, not only do you miss the promotion, but you also miss just having that connection of like, oh, I'm hearing the song on the radio and it sounds good. And I love the fact that,
yeah.
Get the feeling you're missing. Yeah.
I do, and we got some play here in the UK for Be Wonderful and for Guess Who's Sorry Now, because I have some friends, and it got what we call like a spot play.
Sure.
So I got a friend who's a DJ, and they'll play it on their show. Or some of my friends say I can't play it. What I can do is I can play a snippet on the news section and talk about you and let people know, but I can't playlist it because we're formatting. So my songs get played, my old songs get played God knows how many times a day, every day of the week, in the States, here, everything. And those stations are formatted to the 80s. But I'm too old for the new stations to play my new stuff. So they won't, even the mighty Madonna was complaining a couple of years ago that she cannot be played on Radio 1 or 2 over here anymore, because they just go, you're too old. And it's horrible.
There have been few exceptions to that rule, and it's harder now in 2021 if you're older. I mean, I think the last major artist to kind of break that chain was Cher when she did Believe, and think about how old she was when that exploded. It was
that was over 10 years ago, so that's still a long time ago, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
she is a phenomenon, isn't she? She really
Absolutely.
is, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's just hard. So you do what you can, and it can be frustrating sometimes. But at the end of the day, I'm just not really good at anything else. So I don't have a choice. You know.
I think I got a quote from you, and I think it's kind of accurate. You said, "I have never worked a day in my life in 34 years." I heard
So,
you say that this morning. So, I mean,
yeah.
that's a compliment. So it's like you love what you do. If it doesn't feel like work, then you know you got a modicum of
Oh,
space.
and so you know, I don't get the radio play anymore, and I don't have hits anymore. But I get tons and tons of work, and I know you probably got a structure to the interview, but I'm always touring here in the UK. And then last year, no, before COVID, we went out to Bali and did a big show out there. Go over to Europe and do a lot of 80s themed festivals, which are amazing. There's one here in the UK called Rewind. It's 40,000 people strong, you know, a day. It's huge. You'll get Gloria Gaynor, Human League, Orchestral Manoeuvres, Kim
Yeah.
Wilde, Boy George, me, Rick Astley, you know, massive 80s names. And it's as good and as credible as any festival you could go and see. It's just huge, you know. And the big thing that's popular now is the orchestral gigs.
You set me up perfectly. 80s classical is coming up on your birthday, September 10th, by the way, in England.
Yeah.
And the lineup is great. Nick
Yeah.
Kershaw, Go West, John Parr, you're
Yeah.
a part of it. What's intriguing about me is that some of your songs lend itself really
Oh,
well to being orchestrated with 70 different pieces in an orchestra. I mean, is that exciting or intimidating or a little bit of both?
oh no, it's just exciting. We did the first one 2 years ago, and that was with Jimmy Somerville, Howard Jones, Johnny Hates Jazz, and me.
Good bands.
And China lends itself beautifully to an orchestra. So if you remember the song, if you want to go and refamiliarize yourself, there's lots of synthesized strings. You know, we were all using Jupiter 8s and synthesizers back then.
Right.
So this is real strings. This is real cellos, violins. You know, sorry. I apologize to you classical musicians. I can't remember the names of all the different ones. And a brass section and timpani, and it's just incredible. It's actually, I stood in the wings when they were rehearsing, and I actually felt really emotional to hear my song being played beautifully on all these bows, you know. So it does lend itself. And we did Millennium Square, Leeds, and we also did the Coliseum in London with the Royal Concert, the BBC Concert Orchestra. And I could barely sing for the lump in my throat. It was just beautiful, feeling all that power behind me. It really, really was. And then China can also be done on an acoustic guitar with just my voice, or on a piano with just my voice. It's one of those songs. It goes really big, or it can go really small. You know.
You get, I can sense the excitement in your voice when you're talking about this. So
Yeah.
you like the little change ups when they happen, where it's like, oh, we can do this. We'll do an acoustic show. No, we'll do it with the orchestra. I get the feeling it makes it more exciting for you guys as artists to go out and do those kind of shows.
What it does, especially if you're playing a sort of long-standing classic repertoire of songs you wrote a long time ago, you've got to keep your interest level up. So to be able to do the song, to do your set in lots of different ways, keeps my interest up, because you know, okay, I've got a mortgage to pay like everybody else, but I want it to, you know, I want to keep it interesting as I can. So it's super exciting. So I can't wait. And also, if it comes off, waiting to hear what's going on in Germany, because all countries have got their different recovery from COVID restrictions. I've got like a 30-day tour across Europe with a huge orchestra called Night of the Proms.
Ooh.
And it's a 30-year standing event. So this is the first time in 30 years. Last year was the first time in 30 years it hasn't happened.
Wow.
And and so I'm booked on that. I was booked on it last year. It's postponed to this year, and I've had some emails saying it's looking good that we're going ahead in the end of November. So fingers crossed.
Very happy for you that you're back out there and doing your thing. And I will mention one more date, because when I saw the lineup and I saw you, Stereo MCs, who I'm a big fan of, and Sir Tom Jones. By the way, this is called Lake Fest, is going on August 12th through the 15th in England. If you can get a ticket, good luck. If you can get a flight out, it'd probably be worth it. Great music. But I'm like going, when you get that word, they go, oh, by the way, you're going to be opening for Tom Jones. Well, I mean, that has to be like Oh my God.
It wasn't oh my God moment. I've met Tom many years ago. He's a super guy. An ex-boyfriend of mine was the house drummer on a TV show over here called Viva Cabaret, and Tom was a guest, and I was just hanging out, and he just propped up the bar with everybody later in the green room. Very easy to talk to, very nice man. Lots of star power, but not starry.
I get this.
Easy to talk to, really great guy, But we're worthy of opening for him, so I'm not intimidated by that. I hugely admire him, but we deserve that slot, so I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Amen to that. Yeah. Carol Decker here on the A Game. Okay, I'm up to my part where I call random shots. These questions can come from anywhere. I have stalked your social media.
I need a drink for this, Tom.
Yes, I usually grab a shot, but I knew you were a wine person, so I got a little bit of Malbec here. So cheers to you for that.
Oh, out of a jar. That's
Well, I couldn't find a wine glass. I had to improvise. I apologize.
Like a survivalist or something. You drink it out of the glass and you've got a gun on
you. Wine out of a mason jar. I know, classy. Real classy. What can I say? All right, with that in mind, and I think when you hear the questions, I think you'll understand that I'm basically a stalker. So with that being said, the better game show in your opinion, The Weakest Link or The Chase?
The Weakest Link.
Now, is it true that you did a celebrity version in the UK of that?
I did both. I've done both. But have you watched The Weakest Link with Anne Robinson? Have you ever watched it?
That made the show for me. I mean, no offense to the new version that just recently rebooted here in America on NBC and to Jane Lynch, but you cannot copy.
She was terrifying. She was utterly terrifying, and she didn't mix with anyone before the show. So we were all in the green room chatting, the different contestants. I can't even remember who I was on with.
Right.
And then she just appears like Darth Vader in front of me, like a light on her, and she doesn't talk to you. She kept up this mystique because she did a very intimidating, oh, you think you're clever, do you? That was her kind of shtick,
Yeah.
And I was pregnant with my daughter at the time, Scarlett. So I think she must have frightened Scarlett in my womb as well. So
I was reading on the celebrity version. I actually realized who won because, and now I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to pull out a very old photo. This is from about 1994. Ming, give me photo number 7 because I had the honor of interviewing Billy Bragg many years ago, and he was over at my station. I'm like, oh, yeah, there I am with the glasses, the bad goatee, and a lot of weight. You can take the photo down now, Ming. Get it out of here.
He was on with me, wasn't he?
Yes, Billy was on with you. He actually won that episode. That's what I found out.
That's when I started to feel comfortable doing shows like that because my career had quieted right down.
Sure.
My music career. But I was getting these offers to do these kinds of shows, and I'm like, oh God, does it all look a bit sad? And then obviously Billy Bragg, Mr. Credibility, if he's doing The Weakest Link, it's going to be okay.
You do feel better about it, don't you? Yeah.
Who's going to go first? Okay, I'll do it.
And it's interesting because the English version of The Chase, Ming, give me photo number 5 because I got a still from your recent appearance there. You were doing pretty well on the show, and the American version, I noticed, the pacing's a little too fast. I think the host on the English version is a lot better. I mean, we have the Beast here. You had somebody different as far as who you're competing with.
We had the Governess.
The Governess, yes.
So I'm on with Adam Garcia. Do you know Adam Garcia? Amazing.
No,
remember Ugly Coyote, the movie Ugly Coyote? He made it big in that. And he's he's a hoofer. He's a dancer. He's a West End Broadway guy. Fantastic. He's Australian. He's amazing. And he and I were doing really well. And then when we got to The Chase, one of the Governess's questions was like, in what month of the year would you have a nativity calendar?
Yes, I caught that. I'm like, really? I was
like, what's the square root of 253.5? And we were like, excuse me.
Yeah, you had a couple of looks there like going, we're getting these questions and she got that. Wait a minute. Hold it. Time out.
So a bit loaded, I thought. But do you have Pointless in America?
Do we have Pointless? No, we don't have that. The Chase has been on now 2 seasons, but it was on the Game Show Network for a few seasons before that. And like I said, The Weakest Link just recently got rebooted. So
Pointless is great. Maybe they'll bring it over to you. So what you have to get is the answer has to be the least obvious one. So that's where you get the points. So, I can't even think of a question to phrase for you, but they ask the public, and the correct answer will be the one that nobody knew because it's a hard question.
Right.
So I won that with Paul Young.
Come back and stay for yeah.
Might
Mr.
even
Corleone.
I think I've got my. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
What have I got here? Got all my awards. I don't have a Grammy.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
There you go. Pointless.
Can we get a close up of that real quick so we can get it on the screen? There we go.
Yeah, it's my Pointless award there. And what else have I got? I got Through the Keyhole as well, which is another one I won. And then, do you remember Kajagoogoo?
I do. Oh, Too Shy, absolutely.
So I would have won Pointless again.
Lamal got you on that one, huh?
Didn't know commons. General. I've got a lot of general knowledge, so I'm good in pub quizzes.
Right.
So I don't really know anything in depth at all, but I just retain a load of crap. And so when I do quiz programs or
you're perfect for it then. You really are.
No, I just remember it. Or I, when it's multiple choice,
Mm-hmm.
go, nah, that's too long ago. That doesn't feel right. Let's go for the middle. And I usually get it right, but it makes me look really clever and I'm not.
It's a good thing.
Random
shots with Carol Decker from T-Pau. Okay. If your family were to rate your cooking on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that score be, you think?
Oh, I think they might give me a 5.
Okay.
So you may not know, or you may know, I'm married to the most amazing chef. He's been a cook for 30 odd years, and he's.
Yeah, I was about to say there was a thing that I kind of read about. There was a celebrity version of Master Chef that was going on.
Yeah.
Now, what was that like? Because I want to see that come to the States. I think that would be brilliant.
Oh, I was terrified again. I was out of my depth on that one. Actually, I got a bit nervous, but Richard coached me, and I cooked the most amazing things, which I've completely forgotten already. Everything goes off the hard drive with me. Everything. Right. But I aced it, and then I was doing really well, and then I messed up a pudding. So cheesecake. Richard said, "You're going to do cheesecake. You don't have to bake it. You just have to put it in the fridge." So we had it all worked out. So I did this amazing cod and parma ham dish. I did guinea fowl and morel mushrooms, and I made the cream sauce. I did a pea puree. I did it all. It looked amazing. And the judges were saying to me, "That is exquisite," because Richard is exquisitely trained. He worked at the Ritz. He's classically French trained, modern British. So he taught me how to do it. And then he did a blueberry cheesecake, and I panicked. I took my eye off the ball, and I didn't put in the correct amount of blueberries. I just put the whole punnet in, so it just turned into sloppy purple vomit, and I couldn't get it to set, and so they kicked me off the show. Well, I got booted off, but I did pretty well. But then as soon as that was over, I forgot how to cook. But what I can do is I can do a really good roast dinner. Okay. I can do a really good spag bowl. I can, I can do things like frittatas, and I can do a good Mexican wrap. So I'll do all the the peppers and the herbs and the spices and the refried beans. And I've got a good palate, so I season things well, which they said on MasterChef. But my repertoire is small, and I do you call it mince over there?
Yeah, I'm familiar with mince. Yes.
Yeah. And one of my more sarcastic friends just says, when you're coming for dinner at Carol's, it's like, how would you like your mince? Do you want a chili? Do you want a bolognese? I can make a burger. It's very versatile, mince.
Love it. About your music, because I'm noticing in the back, is that CDs or books that are behind you, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
This one?
The other side. It looks like, I'm not sure if there's the other side. Okay, it looks like books. I was like wondering if they were CDs back there. That's the other thing.
There's loads of CDs.
Okay.
And there's all my husband's cookery books.
Okay. Well, since I wanted interesting with the CDs. You know what? I was gonna mention that. I'll mention it right now. As a matter of fact, there you go. That's the anniversary CD.
Yeah, and then we have the Virgin Anthology, which is also really beautiful. Lots of classic vintage pictures, really pretty colours, and I work closely with Universal on all of this stuff because I like it to look. I'm not signed to them anymore, but people may know now that Universal own everything. So EMI bought out Virgin, and Universal bought out EMI, and so they always get in touch with me. and I like to work with them and make sure it's all looking pretty with all the great pictures and everything. And I do the forward and stuff because it reflects on me, and I still earn some money. So I like to make it look good and happen.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I'll mention the website real quick: T-Pau.co.uk. Check out the website. There's some great merchandise that you can possibly get from Carol and T-Pau. But when it comes to the music, we were kind of touching on this a little bit earlier. I mean, about T-Pau being that it could do so many different things. So, is the influence in your mind more rock, more R&B, or is it still scattered all over the place?
Yeah, I guess rock, pop, R&B. Someone wrote to me recently and said, because I can get quite a country twang to my voice as well. So if there's anybody out there in Nashville who wants to work with me, it's really hard to describe, isn't it? Which is frustrating, and maybe I've made my career so much more difficult than it needed to be. Because I can't land on the one thing. I get an idea and I run with it, and it comes out the way it comes out. And just lately we've been because my keyboard player Karsten, he's Norwegian, and the Scandis have a great pop sensibility. Mm-hmm. So the last couple of songs I've done with Karsten, which was Read My Mind and Run and Be Wonderful, we get all the sequencing in and stuff like that he likes to do. So that they're really poppy, very linear, very clean, modern songs. Mm-hmm. And then the next one might be a big guitar piece. So it's hard to describe, really.
Next one on Random Shots, and this is, and I apologize for this question, but it was one of those things I read about, and I had to kind of put the comparable out there. Who was harsher to you, Beavis and Butthead, or Gary Barlow from Take That?
I forgot the Beavis and Butthead. Thanks for
trying to bring back a painful memory. I'm sorry.
Yeah, probably Gary Barlow, because he, on the X Factor, which I know you had over there, a young contestant was doing China in Your Hand. That was her song. And a friend of mine was working on production on the show, and she called me up and said, hey, guess what? They're putting your song in the show. So it's quite a few years ago. My kids were quite young. They were in their early teens, and we didn't watch it. We weren't into the show, and my kids didn't watch it. Most people use their young kids that were into it because they wanted to be a big pop star and everything.
Right.
So we said, guess what? Mummy's song's in the show. So we get the drinks and the snacks and the wine, and we're all
make a big deal out of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the kids are there. And it was a young girl called Amelia Lilly, and she did a really good version of it because it's a hard song and you need quite a mature voice to sing it, Mm-hmm. And then Gary Barlow said, that was really good, Amelia. It's a really hard song to sing, and it's nice to hear sung in tune for a change, if I'm honest. And I just went, and I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach.
Of course.
My kids just looked at me and went, Mummy, was he just rude about you? And I went, I think so, Yeah. And I don't think I do sing it out of tune, to the best of my knowledge. I don't have to hold tuning fork up. Maybe it's a bit pitchy in places, I don't know. But it has, I don't have a perfect voice, I never claim to, but the performance on the single is jam-packed with personality. Otherwise, it wouldn't have stayed at number one for 5 weeks.
Exactly. It wouldn't have been number one in 7 countries. Yeah. It's sort of and I like Gary Barlow. He seems like a nice guy, but it's sort of like, even I'm like sitting there when I read the story, I'm like going, dude, you're dissing a song that 7 significant countries thought it's the best song in their country. So it's like...
Yeah, well, a friend of mine, no names, no patrol, she had been working with Take That for years, and she said to me, that's not like him. I don't understand it. So I think maybe the show was on the turn a bit. They were trying to get controversial comments and stuff. So maybe production said, and I was just new to Twitter and usually tweeting when I'd had a couple of glasses of wine and getting into trouble. And they probably said, Decca will be watching. She'll be pissed. It'll cause controversy for the show. So the show phoned me because I tweeted him and said, what's your fucking problem?
Nice. All right. You called him out. I respect that. Yeah.
And the show called me immediately, because the rest of the show's still running. And said, and there's the extra factor. They said, do you want to talk to him on the phone live on air? And I went, yes, I do. And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't come on air. He
Wow.
wouldn't come there. So I tried to have it out with him, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was at least 10 years.
I don't care anymore. I really don't.
Yeah. I was just it was just more of a fun thing. It was not trying to pick a wound or anything like that. But it
Yeah,
is
and you can't please everybody, can you?
no, you can't. As much as you try, everything, and from being in the music business, it's so subjective. Even what I do, so subjective. You can't either you're gonna like it, you're not gonna like it. You have the choice. Listen, don't listen. It's kind of how you got to look at it.
And do you have a show called Spitting Image in the States?
No, we don't.
Where they had all the puppets that looked like it's really famous. All the puppets looked like all the politicians at the time, and it was really satirical and stuff.
Oh, it reminds me of the Genesis video for Land of Confusion when they had those puppets with all the politicians.
It probably was Luck and Floor who did all the puppetry, so it probably was people. And it was around the time of Thatcher, and that she was prime minister at the time and everything. Mm-hmm. And clearly I'd gotten too big for my boots, because there was one scene where God was talking. Someone was talking to God and saying, well, what's it all about? Why are we here? What's the meaning of everything? And God went, I don't know. I think that's a question for T-Pau.
Great line.
So clearly I must have been as pompous as hell, because I was riding the crest of this wave,
Having fun with random shots with Carol Decker of T-Pau. True or false, and this is me doing my research, was it you that was offered a chance to, back in the 80s, make an appearance on Miami Vice?
I was offered it. I didn't even have to audition. I was offered it. So
wow.
It was an episode where I was to play Don Johnson's wife. I've got a funny story for everything. I was offered it, and I was on tour with Bryan Adams, couldn't get out of it. So Sheena Easton took the part.
I remember her on the show. So that was the role you would have had. Wow.
Yeah. And I played his wife, a club singer, and I get shot caught in Gangland Crossfire or something like that. So, it wasn't an ongoing part. It was just an appearance. And it would have been great, but I couldn't do it. So cut to 15, 16 years later in London, he's starring in Guys and Dolls.
Don Johnson is?
Yeah, on the West End.
Okay.
Yeah, on the West End. And a friend of mine's working on the show and said, do you want to come, see Guys and Dolls, Don Johnson? So I'm like, oh, God, Don Johnson. I nearly did Miami Vice. That was amazing. So we're backstage, and he's there, and he has this massive security guy with him, just kind of taking care of business and stuff. And finally I get sort of presented to him, and I said, oh, I need to tell you something. I said, you won't know who I am. Band called T-Pau, big hit in the 80s called Heart and Soul. And that episode where Sheena Easton played your wife, and that I was meant to play that part with you. And he went, that's nice, dear.
That was it?
I was going to go, oh my God, small world. Oh, wow. So nice to meet you.
Three little words. I'm like going, and I hate to say it. I'm sitting there going, Don Johnson, you're a dick. What the hell?
Went, that's nice, dear. Just like that. And I went, okay. And I just left.
Yeah, it's like, what?
I waited in this queue to tell fans to tell him this. Don, you're not going to believe this, but guess couldn't have given less of a shit.
Oh. I pretty much now know Don Johnson is not coming on this podcast ever. That's not going to happen. Okay, I think I got one or two more. And this one, we were kind of chatting about this one when we were exchanging emails.
Yeah.
By the way, I will wish Miles Hunt of the Wonder Stuff a very happy birthday. He celebrated that just a couple of days ago.
Miles?
Yeah. Now,
happy birthday.
Happy birthday. When we were talking, there was an interesting connection with, and it's an indirect connection, but it's your husband and the Wonder Stuff. Elaborate. What is this?
My husband, Richard, when we met in 97, getting to know each other. And then he moved in with me, and he's got all these records. He's got tons of Wonder Stuff records. And I knew Size of a Cow, which is one of their more accessible, bigger.
I still think it's their best song of their
career. But he was what they call a stuffy. They were called stuffies. And he went to so many gigs. Wonder Stuff, Stiff Little Fingers and the Stranglers. He went to so many of their shows. So Rich is quite punky, That's quite punky. And then got friendly with Miles on Twitter. And he invited us to a show in London, I think, at the Forum a couple of years ago. And we were supposed to meet him. But his tour manager didn't leave the AAA passes. So we got to see the show, which was amazing.
Right.
But we couldn't get backstage and see him. So I don't know if he did that on purpose. Just Carol, sure, you can get backstage.
Yeah. See, this is where I can say as a friend of Miles, and my old radio boss is huge friends with him, Matt Pinfield. I can call Miles and go, Miles, you need to hook Carol up. You're going to go back and do some shows soon. Don't make me come to England.
No,
I'll
he
be fine.
he said, "I'm so sorry." Apparently, there'd been some kind of cock up, but the show was amazing, you know.
Yeah.
But there you go. So the circuitous 6 degrees of separation is that my husband was a stuffy, and Miles and I do have a little chat on Twitter now and again, which is nice.
That's great. No, I like that's a great story. I'm glad you brought that up. And I think I did find a photo of your husband in photo number 2 because I think it was on Twitter, so I want to put that up. There, that is him, right?
Oh, that is 3 weeks ago. My daughter's postponed graduation in Bournemouth. That's not my daughter, that's my son.
Right, yeah.
And if you look in the background, we've been photobombed by a stomach.
Yes, you have, actually.
So yeah, so there you go. So that's in when it was sunny. Yeah, I remember summer. It was Wednesday 2 weeks ago. You know,
Yeah, it was summer for a day. There you go.
Here ever since. Yeah. So that was Scarlett's postponed graduation. Yeah, and that's Richard, and that's my son Dylan, who's 19 today.
Congratulations again to Dylan on his 19th birthday. Getting ready to wrap up. Let me mention the website again, T-Pau.co.uk. By the way, her autobiography she wrote in 2016, you can get a copy of that and signed. Go to the website, find out about that. Fascinating stories throughout Carol's career. And obviously, if you're listening to this, you know she's not going to hold back. So there's a good reason to get the book. Oh, by the way, she's also on Cameo. If you need a personalized message to anybody as a T-Pau fan, find her on Cameo as well. And one more thing I will mention, photo number 6. This is coming out via the BBC. I don't know when, but it's fascinating. Rock and Roll Cars looks like it's going to be a fun thing. You, Gary Newman, Go West, Tony Hadley, Spandau Ballet. I mean, obviously, this probably was sort of okay, here are the rock stars and their cars. If I'm making it too simple, tell me. That's what I'm taking out of it.
Oh, you just had to talk about what cars you'd had, you know, and stuff like that. And I've never spent a fortune on cars. I think the one I probably spoke about was when I finally made some money with T-Pau. I bought, you call them a Miata?
Mazda Miata, yeah.
Yeah, so 1990, we got a Mazda over here, Mazda MX-5.
Mm-hmm.
I got one of the first Mazda MX-5s in the country in 1990. It used to turn heads, and it came with this big coffee table design book.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. That's my son's birthday lunch coming back. Join us, yeah. And it was just a head turner, and I had the clip-on winter hoods and everything, and I just adored it. And I thought I was the cat's meow. Nice. Just drive like that, leaning out there. Hey, you know. And yeah, these days I've got a big planet poisoning Land Rover.
It's like going, and how much is diesel now? Right. Okay, great.
Sorry, Greta. Yeah, I've got a Land Rover, which we can get the big hairy dog in and the kids and all the stuff. And, you know,
this is how you know, yes, I have a family.
Then I had my little Miata, and I thought I was dog's bollocks, as we say here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Carol, I do hope T-Pau will find its way maybe in 2022 to the United States. And, you know, there are those 80s tours over here, maybe not as big as the ones in the UK.
Yeah, they're not quite as polished, I have to say. I've been approached over a couple, so if they want to up their game, because the ones over here it's not some sad, lamentable, didn't you used to be thing. They are massive, huge productions.
We will talk at some point. I know one that's not that vibe. I know what you're saying. There's at least one in the United States that's not that sad vibe, and I actually know 2 of the bands that have them, and they're pretty good. So I mean, we will definitely. Hey, anything to get you to the States. That's the whole idea. We got to get you here. Carol Decker of T-Pau, thank you for your time today. Once again, happy birthday to your son today, too.
Pleasure, Rob, and really nice to talk to you, and nice to touch base with everyone in America. Mwah!
That's a wrap for the A-Game. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday brunch edition. We'll be back at my regular time on Wednesday nights, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific. Look for me on Facebook, and please sign up for my YouTube channel. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thanks again.